We are back here on Issues and Answers. It is 6:30 on the dot. March 24th, 2023. It is Friday, which means it is the weekend. I hope you guys have a good weekend ahead of you. Yes. We just finished talking about the banking crisis and the 20th anniversary of the Iraq War. If you got something to say about that, please give us a call, 219-885-1371, or this topic we're about to talk about right now, hate crimes, Rev. Hate crimes in America have gone up by almost 12%. The largest number with its bias motivated against what group, Rev? What do you think?
Well, I mean, one thing I do know is that the tail end of the spectrum, but then again, you know, they're also the tail end of the spectrum of number of people, is stuff that pertains to the LGBTQ community. The numbers are small, but then again, the numbers of those people are small too.
Yes, but it was not the Lugga Booga Tugga community.
They weren't the big ones.
No, actually, it was
us.
Black people.
That's it.
As always, for the 400th year in a 400th year in a row.
Okay.
Hate crimes, the largest amount of hate crime were motivated by bias against black people, followed by crimes victims based on their ethnicity, sexuality, and religion, the FBI said in a report. Now, the FBI said that reported hate crimes and incidents rose to 9,000 in 2021, up from 8,000 in 2020. The Bureau said that 64% of hate crime victims in 2021 were targeted because of their race, ethnicity, or ancestry bias, with 15.9 being targeted because of their sexual orientation and 14% due to their religion. The largest, some 2,233 incidents, were motivated by anti-African American bias.
You know, there is something about this. I have to admit that, you know, okay, on the one hand, you get the total 9,065. Then you say 2,233 were motivated by anti-African American. Well, that's actually not 64%. That's
no, 64% were because of their race, not against black people.
Right, yeah. Race, ethnicity, or ancestry. So that includes a bunch of people beyond us. But here's the thing I'm getting at. Most, I remember hearing this sort of said anecdotally. Black people, unless they want to be stagnant, are forced to live near white people. Unless they want to live in a stagnant community. They're forced to live near white people. White people are never forced to live with black people unless they are really at the bottom end. That's the only thing that forces white people to live around black folks. So they're really caught up in the struggle.
Or they they live in one of those neighborhoods. Like I had a lot of neighbors growing up. They were like older white people who just when Miller started becoming black, they just didn't leave. They were just like older people who was like either forget it, I ain't leaving, or they couldn't leave. Yeah.
So I find myself wondering, since most of them don't really have to live around us, they got to do a lot of traveling to mess with us.
Well,
they're doing most of their mess. They're doing to the few of us who decide to go live around them.
Yep. Look, that's one of the reasons why I look at living in Gary as a blessing. Okay.
Yeah.
For many years, I remember when I was young, I used to always say, I can't wait to get away from Gary. Now it's like, I am so glad I live in Gary. When I hear some of the stuff, like I have cousins who lived in Munster and like got mercilessly teased and bullied when they were in high school. I know people who lived in Maryville who we used to hear about like race riots in Maryville High when I was going to school back in the 90s. Like we never had to deal with that. And I am so glad I never had to deal with any of that type of stuff living here in the city of Gary. Like, generally, it's a blessing to not have to worry about, you know, the George Zimmermans of the world.
Yeah, I say all the time, living in Gary is like living in a bubble.
Yep.
You know, when all the talk was about police abuse of force, and generally it was talking about it along racial lines. When I thought back to incidents I've had, interactions with police when I lived in California, I remember one time, for example, I was driving on my way home, and I don't know what I had done that caught some cop's eye, but I did something that caught some cop's eye, and that guy followed me home.
Dang.
Followed me to my house. He could pull me over. Now, or another time, I'm driving on my way to church on Sunday, and there was a work zone, but it was Sunday, which means nobody was working in the work zone.
Right.
And I'm driving with the other cars, and this police car pulls me over, and the guy steps out of the car, and he's talking to me all gruff and everything. And, by contrast, when I come to Gary, one day, it was the first winter, and it had warmed up. The street was clear. I'm driving down Broadway, me and everybody else. We're just enjoying the fact that the street is clear. It's not slippery or anything. And I guess I hit around 40 miles per hour, 45 miles an hour. And the police car pulled me over. And, I parked, and here comes this brother. Black man, looked like me.
Yeah.
And he comes up to the car, and he's smiling.
Really?
He's not looking like he's sucking on a lemon.
Oh, okay.
He's not looking like, he's got to, whoop me into line or nothing. He's smiling. He says, sir, do you know how fast you were going? I said, you know what? I'll be honest, I don't know. I was just driving with the flow of traffic, and the street was so nice and clear. It just felt so good to not have to be driving through snow. I wasn't paying attention to it at all, officer. He said, well, you know what? Just be careful. And then he looked at my car, and he saw the clergy thing. He said, oh, Reverend. He said, now look, just, the speed limit on Broadway is 35. Just slow it down, and everything will be all right. He didn't bark at me, didn't growl at me, none of that. That's the difference. Right there. Right there in a nutshell.
I can understand that. Like I always tell people, you got to be careful. Like even just 10 minutes outside of Gary, you got to be careful. Like even like when you're in play like Winfield and I forget where my sister was driving.
Even just in Maryville.
Yeah. Like
coming off the 61 exit.
My brother refuses to drive in Maryville. He refuses. He live in East Chicago. He refused to drive in Maryville. He just will not do it. I know lots of brothers to this day who do not feel comfortable in Maryville. I can understand it. It's definitely an experience. It could be an experience. I remember one time I accidentally did not notice that a police officer was following me, and I had a broken tail light. Yeah, I had a broken tail light. I was out in Maryville, and I was driving, and he pulled me over, and my heart was about to beat out of my chest. Like seriously, I thought I was going to die. Like I almost had. Nah, thank God he did not. He was relatively cool too, but just the fear of it in itself, the anxiety that comes with it, a lot of interactions with the police. That's why I always tell people: look, the police should be trained to understand the fact that people are nervous. Like there's a lot of people who, when they get nervous, they might run, they might start crying, they might hyperventilate when the police pull them. They are supposed to be trained to deal with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. The caller's back.
Alrighty.
I'm sorry, caller. Were you the caller who just hung up?
No.
Okay. So.
Okay. Good rep.
Yes.
I know you just told the truth because honestly, they have stopped me before and they had a right to do what they had to do. But they just said, "Look, man, just go ahead, just take it easy. Just take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're right when you said they just don't give out no tickets like they, just don't give out no tickets.
Well, I'm just saying they don't look for reason.
That's what I'm saying.
To escalate things.
They done had choice. I don't see that they had choice to give a ticket or not give a ticket. They just told the driver, just take it easy. Just go ahead. They didn't get rough or nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. With other words, I'm agreeing with what you said, girl.
Oh yeah.
Wait now. Oh, that was the Gary police now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That happened to me at the airport last year.
Exactly. So they not like no gun ho out there just trying to just rough. Yes, I have seen them. Trust me, I have seen very decency in them. That's all I can see.
Mm-hmm.
But I know they can get rough if they have to.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm gonna let you all go.
All right, now.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for your
Don't
call,
start
brother.
none, won't be none.
Absolutely. Well, to me, a big part of the reason why this story that I really wanted to do this story was because the media, for the last 2 years, 3 years now since the pandemic, since we're in 2023.
Oh yeah.
They've made a big deal out of making it seem like black people are just going around beating up random Asian people in mass.
Yeah.
Like they are making it seem like we are just the absolute most hate crime committing people on the planet. So, to me, these statistics, because they're not even really talking about hate crimes against black people all that much anymore. They every once in a while you'll see something. My mother actually told me about a story about this young brother in Mississippi earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
This young brother in Mississippi who somehow he ended up calling his mother on the cell phone. He was running from some white guys. He was just walking, mind his own business. He was running, and he's like, these white people are chasing me. He calls his mom. He's freaking out. Next time they find him, his body parts. They just find parts of him. They're not finding his actual body, his parts of him. Now that hasn't been on anywhere in the mainstream media. Nope. A brother slaps an Asian, and it's like, news at 9. Black man slaps Asian. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. They have done, and to me this goes back to what I hate about the liberal media. When they try to create these they try to create these narratives, they want it to essentially sell the story that Donald Trump was creating so much hate against Asian people in this country that he was essentially setting up every Asian in the country to be rounded up and thrown back into an internment camp. And that's just not really that's not what the numbers are saying. The Asian people are not just drop kicking Asians all over America.
Oh gosh.
Well, they're not. They're not.
They're not.
And especially not black people. So why, like I said, don't buy into the corporate media. The media wants to sell their narratives, just like they tried to make it seem like they set it up, right? If the Democrats had lost in 2022, the midterms, they had set it up to blame black men for not all supporting Stacey Abrams.
Mm.
So I guess we should thank God that the Democrats just barely kept the House, because if they had not, me and you, Rev, would be, public enemy number one, because they're saying black men are now being targeted by right wing and Russian disinformation and all this other stuff, because people like me and you question what the Democratic Party has done for black people recently, at least.
Right.
So again, the media has their narrative. They want to sell. They want to spin this stuff, and creating this perpetually victimized class of Asian people being beaten up by black men was the story they wanted to tell. Even though that the numbers saying, guess what? Overwhelmingly, the majority of the crimes that are committed, that are hate crimes, are still racially motivated, but primarily against black people of all, more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we are not just going around beating up Asians in mass.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's definitely.
I mean, again, who do you live near? Most crime is committed by people in the neighborhood area where they live.
Yes. Now,
the only way, a bunch of black folks and a bunch of Asians are going to be, operating in close proximity is when Asians own businesses in black communities.
Yeah.
And if there's any animosity in there, it will be as a result of the relationships between the customers and the staff.
Yep, and I've talked about this before because we saw. I mean, were you out there in L.A. when they had the Latasha Harlan situation? Were you in California then when they had?
What year was that?
I think that was 90. That was right before Rodney King, so that would have been 90 or 91.
No, I was still in Vegas. Oh man, yeah, I was still in Vegas.
Okay, so
that was such a wild night.
Oh, the Rodney King stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they had. Cause remember, at this time, Las Vegas was still kind of small. Most black people lived either in North Las Vegas or on the west side. There's only 2 streets that you can get out of the west side and get to the Strip. They had both of those streets blocked off.
Oh man.
They were gonna make sure wasn't no black folks getting to the Strip that night.
They was gonna make sure that the funk didn't pop off.
Yes, indeedy.
I understand that because at that point there was a lot of animosity between like the black and Asian community because the woman who killed Latasha Harlan, who was a store owner who shot her in the back, while she was walking away, got no time in prison whatsoever for murdering the girl. Got no time whatsoever, and that was one of the reasons that when the LA riots happened, they started burning down Korean stores en masse. They was like, "Look, man, they killed Latasha." And got away with it. I don't support that. Like I said, in the sense that I don't support, especially minorities, going after each other. I mean, I'm not saying just go and beat up white people either, okay? Right. But I'm saying, like, they are used by the majority to make it seem like to make black people look bad on to a large extent. Yeah, that's what they're there for. They're there to be the
because they're the model minority.
Yeah, they're there to be the model minority, make black people look bad and stuff like that. And they are used until they are no longer needed either. Just like every other minority group gets used and discarded until they are no longer needed. So I'm not a big fan of that, but I understood the anger because, Latasha, I think, was 13 or 14 years old, something like that. She just got into an argument with the storekeeper. She falsely accused Latasha of stealing. Mm-hmm. And Latasha said, "I'm not stealing." She slammed the money down on the counter to say, "Look, I'm not stealing. Here's the money right here." And then she walked out, and the woman shot her while she was walking out. Okay, that you can see that on the camera, on the footage, on the camera footage. So that's what I'm saying. So like you're right that most of those types of incidents happen when blacks and Asians get together, because again, there is that sort of they're in our communities, making money and off of us, but they are not of the community. Like we talked about that with the United Urban Network for a long time. Mm-hmm. Is there a way that we could somehow have a forum with the different gas station owners and the different store owners in our community with the city and the public, so that to try to come together and have some sort of powwow between them and us? Because look, I shop at the Miller K Market sometimes. Mm-hmm. I remember not too long ago, I saw, had to be one of the owner's wives. She pulled up in a Porsche Cayenne. Oh yes. She came with the full kind of Middle Eastern garb and everything, the full head to toe burqa and whatever. Okay. Steps out of the Porsche, and I'm like, whoa! And they are making bukus of money. Okay, people walking in the store with the Porsche. Okay. Yeah. And buddy. So, but ultimately, they are not of the community. And so I'm not saying that justifies doing anything to them, but I'm saying that there does need to be a certain level of like integration into call back, caller. We're gonna get to you in a second. Okay. There needs to be a certain level of integration into the community, a certain level of reciprocity that goes on between them and us to communicate, because we don't know them, and like I said, as far as we know, they're just in our communities to exploit us. Yeah.
Because they have no connection to us other than that. Right. They make the money, they leave. And particularly, like, for example, here in this city with the gas stations, if they want to say that they do what they do because they're providing an essential service because people can't get to the bigger grocery stores and such. If that's what you want to say, that's why you're doing it. But I find it hard to believe when you do what you do and you put as little money as you can into, the upkeep of your store.
Yep.
But prices are designed as if you're putting a lot of money into the store.
Right. I've had to take back potatoes, meat. I remember one time, I think I had some peanut butter. I put it in a thing. I brought it home. That peanut butter had expired like a year ago. Oh. And I was like, I had to take it back. And I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty ridiculous. So that's what I'm saying. Like, but yeah, there needs to be some sort of community understanding. Like I said, I don't wish hate crimes on anybody. That is a horrific thing to have to go through. And so, everybody out there, stay safe and look out for each other. And again, a lot of these people should be in our community so we can look out for them. Because we don't know them. We don't know, we don't know to look out for them because we don't know them because a lot of them don't seem to want much to do with black people at all other than making money off of us. All right, folks, we got to go to another break. When we come back, the Happy Happies.
All righty.
Yes.